Hi, greetings, fellow Slayers. Well, it's now time to look at episode 4 of season 1 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Teacher's Pet. One evening in the Bronze, Xander saves Buffy from a menacing vampire. He then mounts the stage to play his guitar solo, promising to later kiss her like she's never been kissed before. He's awakened from this dream, and the biology teacher, Dr. Gregory, is about to call on him. After class, Gregory encourages Buffy, but he's soon killed by an unseen monster. That night at the Bronze, Xander is taunted by fellow student Blaine for his lack of sexual prowess. When Buffy and Willow arrive, Xander puts his arm around both girls in order to buff up his reputation. Buffy rushes off when Angel shows up. He gives her his jacket to warm her, and she notices several slashes on his arm. She jokes that somebody must have attacked him with a big fork. He warns her about the new threat and not to let him corner her as he'll rip her throat out. He leaves quickly after the warning. The next day, Buffy informs Giles that Angel warned her about a fork guy. The substitute biology teacher, Natalie French, shows up and turns every boy's head. She seems to have a thing about insects, especially the praying mantis. At lunch, Cordelia finds the headless body of Dr. Gregory in the cafeteria locker. The Scoobies try to figure out if there is a connection to the Master, but don't rule out that there is a second monster about. Later that night, Buffy goes to the park and confronts Claw, a vampire who has a large claw in place of her right hand. The fight is interrupted by the police, and the vampire flees. While in pursuit, she sees the vampire come up behind Miss French, who just stares at him. To Buffy's surprise, the vampire bolts in panic. At school the next day, Buffy is sent to a counselor to help her get over seeing the dead body. This makes her late for the surprise test that Miss French gives the class. A test where she helps Xander with a question. Buffy arrives and looks through the window in the door. Sensing Buffy's presence, Miss French turns her head at 180 degrees to look at her. Later, Miss French has Xander over to her house in the evening to work on a project. Uh-oh. Back in the library, Buffy figures that Miss French must be praying mantis and convinces Giles and Willow. They discover that Blaine, who worked on a project with Miss French the day before, never came home that night. Buffy tries to warn Xander, but he brushes her off, saying that she is just jealous. Miss French welcomes Xander with a drink, a fire in the fireplace, and a revealing dress. The drink knocks him out just when she turns into an insect. Xander wakes up in a cage next to Blaine, who tells him how she mates like a praying mantis, biting off men's heads in the process. In the library, the gang discovers that the she-mantis lures virgins to her for her mating ritual. Will reveals that Xander is a virgin, then calls Xander's mother and finds out that he isn't home. They realize he's in great danger. Buffy gets Giles to record bad sonar while Miss French chooses Xander to be her next victim. When the remaining Scoobies visit the house where Miss French is supposed to live, they find a nice old woman who was the real Miss French, but retired in 1972. To quickly find Xander, Buffy tracks the one-handed vampire, who was so scared of the she-mantis that he knows just which house is the right one. After finding the right house, the vampire attacks Buffy, but she quickly stakes him with a broken fence post. Buffy breaks through the window when the mantis is about to mate with Xander. She slays the insect, using the bat sonar to weaken it. Xander then destroys the eggs that are in the house. Buffy, in Angel's jacket, later meets him at the Bronze. He tells her to keep it, and Buffy's obviously smitten. Later, Buffy puts Dr. Gregory's glasses in his jacket, still hanging in the classroom closet, not noticing that the eggs are attached to the bottom of a shelf, or that one of them hatches. Dun dun dun. So let's take a look at some continuity in this story in this episode. Xander reveals to be a virgin, which he'll continue to be until he sleeps with Faith in the Zebo. Dr. Gregory is the first member of the Sunnydale High faculty to die, but by no means the last. Similarly to Dr. Gregory in this episode, Stephen Platt will be another member of the faculty to die at the hands of the episode's antagonists just after having a positive effect on Buffy in Beauty and the Beast. So let's take a look at the production of this episode. The puppet of the she-mantis' real form is a reuse of the Nagroth prop from Babylon 5, created by Optic Nerve Studios. Mazetta Vander described, "When I eat the bug sandwich, they actually had real bugs, Little crickets are something they use for fishing, I believe. They were kept in little boxes which they sprinkled onto the bread. I remember having a really hard time with trying to do that because I did not want to feel the little wings. They said, well, they're going to be bait for fish anyway. But I did not want to hurt an animal. They didn't die. They were fine. They were just sprinkled onto the bread, and then when I got to eat it. They're not there. Rosetta Vander was a fan of the movie, so she jumped at the chance to play a villain in the show. Nice. Now let's take a listen to pop cultural references. When describing Miss French's head-turning abilities, Buffy references The Exorcist. In the library, Willow's comment, "Inquiring minds want to know," is a reference to a slogan used by the tabloid newspaper National Enquirer. Xander complains about the numerous dark beings on the Hellmouth, calling it Monster Island. And now finally onto some other trivia. The real Mrs. French was played by actress Jean Spiegel Howard, director Ron Howard's mother. Her husband, Rance Howard, appeared on Angel, portraying Marcus Roscoe. Nice. So overall, this is a nice middle-of-the-road episode, I guess you could call it, and it's just kind of overall interesting, I guess you could say. So, yeah. So overall, I give Teacher's Pet 3 vampire steaks out of 5. Well, tune in next time as we take a look at Never Kill a Boy on the First Date. So, until then, see you, everybody.